As You, Season 5, Episode 10 opens, Joe and Bronte are leaving for Canada in order to hide. Will has been asked to assist him with the travel documents, and he has also contacted Henry to reassure him that he will return shortly. He is concerned about Nadia's potential reaction to his disclosure of Larv's homicide on tape. Even though Bronte is anxious, she cooperates as she can't murder Joe without revealing him and exacting revenge on Beck. In the final moments, they are left patiently awaiting for the passports while camping in a vacant residence. There are other instances of touching, including when Bronte ponders to kiss Joe, when Joe nearly notices the pistol concealed within her bags, and when he appears wary of the policeman speaking with her at the gas station. She chooses to face him that evening before he discovers it, since she knows she can no longer pretend. She admits that she is afraid of all that has been happening and tries to be as truthful as she can. Joe tries to have an affair with her after taking her on a cruise on a yacht to reassure her that their affection is all that counts. At last, she draws her pistol on the guy. She says he repeatedly did this to all of his partners and detests the fact that he stripped away her ability to speak and ethical standards. In order to get Beck's book reissued with her original voice, she also demands that he eliminate anything he inserted as part of her retaliation. In order to view Bronte amidst the stars during the boat journey, Joe has her stand while he rests down. He continues to talk about how lovely everything is and how Bronte is the center of his existence. Bronte looks strong and understands that this is the reason she initially subsequently fell in love with Joe. Joe uses love as a weapon because he understands its potency. However, she is aware that he cannot deceive her once again. We learn another reason why Bronte could have ended up in love with Joe as she draws her pistol on him. He notes that she was aware of the truth but chose to ignore it since she despises her life as Louis, and since she has him, she is able to reside in an imaginative fairy tale. This was exactly what Dom had said to Bronte during the altercation a few episodes prior. Joe is certain that he can keep their relationship together in spite of the gun and Bronte's charges. He thinks they are only reciting another romantic cliche in which the lady shoots the hero because of a miscommunication. However, when Bronte lets Will introduce Joe to Henry, things take a turn for the worse. As Henry inquires as to whether Joe has harmed Kate, the reunion is not what anybody could have anticipated. Although he is deceitful, it appears that he has now gone too far. Joe used to look beneath his bed for monsters, Henry remembers. He hangs up, though, now that he realizes the monster is Joe. Because he injured Henry, Joe feels sorrow and dissatisfaction in himself. Because he is so undesirable, he feels that he should be killed. She accuses him of having delusions and claims he is not an aggressor. She thinks that if she can awaken and see the true him, then the world will too. Joe acknowledges that his dependence on her, the cosmos, and his affection has been excessive, and he appears to have lost interest in life after losing his son. The only thing that counts. After he wants to hold someone accountable, he strikes Bronte. Bronte phones the police after her, and Joe argue while the two are wounded. As he is trying to go, he murders a police officer, but she stops him with a pistol. He implores her to murder him, but she declines. She averts his onslaught by unintentionally opening fire on him. Following this, we learn that Joe was found guilty of killing Beck, Love, Benji, and Peach, among many more victims. Nikki is now free. As they appear on podcasts and try to expose other abuses, the vigilantes gain popularity. Nadia works on helping women who suffer from PTSD and eventually writes a book. Gretchen and Maddie are reconciled. Harrison is also approved, and the three of them move in together. Maddie is found guilty of Regan's murder and arson, but because of the situation, she's not convicted. She is now drug-free after attending treatment for her medication dependency. She gave Regan a sumptuous burial and is now expecting Siamese twins. Although Kate sustains a few injuries, she manages to escape the ravaging flames. She wins Henry back, and Teddy turns Lockwood Corps into a non-profit. Marianne, a well-known artist now, is Kate's first customer when she returns to her previous position. While Henry appears concerned as he looks at Kate's charred arms, Bronte is frightened about how he could turn out. Beck's book, which Bronte released without Joe's help, is more popular. Joe pleads with Bronte to murder him when he is encircled in the forest. He appears to be opposed to going to prison since he is aware that his taped confession of killing Love and the officer will not allow him to escape punishment. Because he is unaware that Kate is still alive, he could also think that he will be prosecuted for her murder. Ultimately, he makes it clear at the conclusion of You, Season 5, Episode 10, that loneliness and prospect of never finding love again are the two things he detests most about being incarcerated. Reading books and fan letters from his naive followers is how Joe kills time. When such individuals are allowed to wander freely, he feels as though the world is conspiring against him. Joe Goldberg, the protagonist of You, proved to be one of the show's most notable and contentious features. He gave viewers an insight into the delusions of a serial murderer through his incessant rants about everybody he adores and resents, which became a mainstay of the show. This also made it feasible for individuals to like the character not simply because he was adored in a conventional way, but rather because of how unusual his thinking was and how hard it was to resist being engrossed in his hallucinations. As viewers ultimately witness the gap that exists between truth and what Joe views as his world, this is intensified substantially in You, Season 5. The television series, which had 10 episodes, began 3 years after the conclusion of the previous season and followed Joe's return to New York. His son Henry, Frankie DiMaio, is returned to him with the assistance of his wife, Kate Lockwood, Charlotte Ritchie. Joe, on the other hand, quickly becomes interested in Bronte, Madeleine Brewer. In the course of the episode, Joe has killed 3 of his loves, among other things, so it's almost a comfort to see him back in New York with Kate, who is also of the majority of his troubled history and has secrets of her own. When Joe calls Henry, who ignores him, the situation changes. One of the most heinous acts of aggression ever witnessed on the program occurs when Joe, having nothing else to forfeit, strikes out at Bronte and attempts to murder her. As it starts to rain and the cops slowly begin to arrive, the finale culminates with Bronte encircling Joe in the woods with a rifle. In his last minutes, Joe receives some fun letters and is ultimately confined up where he belongs. In his last words, Joe says, "Maybe the issue isn't me, it's you." And although this is embarrassing, it nevertheless makes rational sense given his perspective. Sadly, the remarks is somewhat accurate.